You're listening to episode 327 of the Major Issues Podcast. Ooh, it's Daredevil. It's Matt Murdock. He's a rebel. And we're covering Daredevil Yellow in time for Daredevil's 60th anniversary. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don. And if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. Or maybe you're listening to this because you lost your sight because a radioactive isotope landed in your eyes, and now you just listen to podcasts for fun. But I know this podcast is going to be fun because I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
I'm here, full of sights. It is I, Alex Garcia, aka the Cog. What's going on, Don?
Almost slipped up there. We got to rebrand it. It's Born Again.
I almost did.
Alex is born again. The Cog is here. The comic OG, and we're talking about an OG creative team right here. So one of the OG best creative teams in Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb. We'll be covering Daredevil Yellow today in celebration. I believe Daredevil's hitting a milestone anniversary fairly soon, which is good to know. And now we know he's kind of getting, I put it this way, a lot of people saw Daredevil for the first time in Yellow. Was it last year, 2 years ago, with She-Hulk? And there was a lot of questions. There was a lot of questions about how all that went down. But yeah, this was a book that was always on my radar, especially after we covered Spider-Man Blue. It was something I believe even you put on my radar because you had suggested that it is both, that it's part of a series, that they did Spider-Man Blue, they did Daredevil Yellow, and I believe Hulk Gray.
Hulk Gray and eventually Captain America White, which I'm still not even sure ever got finished. I never checked to see if that got finished.
Okay.
But Hulk Gray, Daredevil Yellow, and Spider-Man Blue, absolutely fantastic reads. Highly recommend.
This is very similar to Spider-Man Blue in the sense that it is a story that is basically a letter sent from our hero to a deceased loved one. In the tale of Spider-Man Blue. As a matter of fact, I'll just leave that there in case you haven't read it. Just know that it has a similar story going forward. But Daredevil Yellow is a 6-issue limited series by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, published under the Marvel Knights imprint. It is a truncated retelling of the origin of the Man Without Fear in the form of a letter he's writing to the now deceased Karen Page. I got a couple questions to ask, Cog, because you were there. You synced it. How did you feel about this Marvel Knights imprint? Was this something that felt like it could be something? Did this feel like hot-shotting Attitude Era 90s stuff, late 90s stuff? This comic actually comes out in around 2001. I think it finishes up in 2002. But yeah, this is a bold move for Marvel at the time. Did the imprint, Marvel Knights, go over well with the comic book fans at the time?
At the time, yeah, it was huge. The idea that Joe Quesada and I forget who else. I think Jimmy Palmiotti, his that was like his partner. This was like one of the first things he brought over when he took over as editor in chief. And the idea that, all right, I'm going to come over and bring over this Vertigo-esque ideas, these adult.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. I mean, Vertigo at the time was killing it. I mean, Sandman and Preacher were selling very well. They were not your kids' comic books, and they were winning awards. So it was just like, what is Marvel doing in the face of this? They're still doing, classic spandex and colorful heroes and telling those stories. So when Marvel, but when he came over and said, look, let me take a crack with even some of the not the biggest selling characters. So he came over and had this idea to do all these crazy ideas with characters like Black Widow, Cloak and Dagger, Morbius, Ghost Rider, the Punisher, even Moon Knight, Shang-Chi, a couple others, and told this more adult sides of comic books where things were grittier, people dying, The art was very photorealistic almost,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was very it pushed the envelope. It pushed the envelope and sold very well, very well. And then they constantly would keep the imprint alive by doing stuff like this. Oh, let's do a Daredevil Yellow story. Let's do, I believe there was even like a couple Fantastic Four stories
yeah.
under this imprint eventually. Um,
It's
I think
crazy because
they
some of the properties under this imprint are the first ones to get feature films, but quite possibly because the stories told in here were ground level and gritty enough to get people excited. This is adult stories here. These are not
right.
your wham bam pow sort of stories here. These are adult stories. My only experience with Marvel Knights is Alias, and that's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's sex, drug, and rock and roll. Like I think at one point there's a mutant that they are cutting the skin of because if they take it or they
Yeah,
put the skin, they eat the
yeah,
skin, they
yeah,
get drugged out or
yeah.
whatever the hell.
Not I don't think Alias was Marvel Knights. Alias was what would
Ooh,
come out of Marvel Knights, which
interesting.
they would eventually push the envelope even further and come up with Max. Remember
Ah,
that?
yeah, yeah, with like Punisher and stuff.
Yes, because that's where it was like, yo, this is TV 17 or even rated M for mature kind of stuff. This was because I mean, do you remember you read Alias, so you remember
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the first time I seen them having sex, and then just I was like, yo, this is not my your grandpa's Marvel right here. Like, what's going on?
You
You
kids out there,
know?
cover your ears. But the very first word in Alias is fuck. The very first word when you open that comic book, and on purpose, it's meant to be
Yep,
that as fuck. And then it's the image that you see in the television show for Jessica Jones of her throwing the person through the door window that says Alias
yep,
Investigations. That's how
yep.
that comic starts, and um, real gritty. This had I didn't feel like this had all that grit there, but it does. It is a basic through line for Daredevil. I would say it's a basic retelling of his origin in an easy, digestible fashion, and it has a lot of heart to it when you consider his motivations and then his love for Karen.
Yeah.
Um, this is your first time reading this story. What did you think?
Well, yeah, I was happy to have the reason to finally read this one. It was, I read Spider-Man Blue issue to issue because it was
Okay.
Spider-Man. It was Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale. I was like, ooh, I remember picking those up issue to issue. I picked up Hulk Gray in a beautiful hardcover, maybe like 6 months after that run was done. Didn't regret it. And I had told myself, all right, I got to go back and read Yellow.
get get back to
But
yellow.
Yellow, I believe, was the first one. So it was completely experimental um,
Yeah,
for them to do this. I believe it was yellow, then gray, then blue, if I'm not
interesting.
incorrect.
I'll check that out. I'll check that out. Yeah.
And then way later was white. And I still need to find out if that ever got finished. So and Daredevil was honestly never my guy. He was never my guy. Whereas the other two were like, oh, Hulk, Spider-Man, I gotta read those. But Daredevil was like, I didn't jump on the Daredevil love train until the Bendis run, which made me then
Okay.
go. Actually, let me pause on that. Shh. It was actually on the initial Kevin Smith run when Kevin
Oh,
Smith
okay.
was doing it with Joe Quesada on that
Is it
that first
not?
six
Is
issue.
that not the run before this?
I don't remember what came first.
The only
I
reason why
don't
I
I
bring
don't
it
I
up
don't
is
I don't remember if
because
this came first.
the only reason why I bring it up is because I believe that it's Kevin Smith who kills Karen. I
Yes.
think Kevin Smith under
Oh yeah.
Casada
So
kills
yeah, so
Karen.
yeah, so that
So
would have came first, and definitely because then that definitely would have came first. Yeah, yeah, that definitely would have came
interesting,
first.
interesting.
And I love those 6 issues. I remember, and those issues were controversial because a lot of people felt like, oh, Kevin Smith is just copying Frank Miller because
Right.
Frank killed Elektra, used Bullseye, and the super heavy-handed use of the Catholic guilt, and he's just retreading all that, and now giving us this modern Frank Miller tale of Daredevil. So I
Right.
remember people just being up in arms, but I at the time had never read the Frank Miller run. Like I said, Daredevil wasn't my guy, but it was just the fact that Kevin Smith, my man from Clerks, and Silent Bob is writing this character, and that was a Marvel Knights book. That was a Marvel Knights book, and it's being drawn by Quesada, who at the time was still he was up there with the names like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. So it's just like
Yeah.
I gotta collect this book. This is going to be my gateway to Daredevil. So
Yeah,
I
he
happily,
ushers in a complete new form of Marvel once he gets over there,
yeah,
Casada.
yeah. And then, but then, Kevin Smith and Casada, they were only on the book for not too long. I'm less than a year.
Okay.
And then the David Mack took over, and that's where we get Echo
Okay.
and a couple other fun stories. And then he's only there for a short while, and then we get the Bendis run, and the Bendis run went for like 50, 60 issues. I want to say.
Okay. I checked
Eh,
it out. It is Daredevil yellow, Spider-Man blue, Hulk gray, and then Captain America white.
There it is.
Yeah. I if you would have put a gun to my head, I would have thought that blue set the stage for this book. It's quite
Mhm.
ironic that they would do this. I it didn't hit as hard for me as blue did because I don't know Karen and Matt as well as I knew
Mm.
Gwen and Peter. Um, do you have a long history with those two? Karen Page, Matt Murdock. All I know Karen for is
Well,
taking
well,
heroin
well.
and selling her
Reading
mouth.
right, and I mean that I love how much they hint to what's to come from Karen in this story because whew, man, they really put her through the ringer.
Yeah, you do.
Where Marvel always like until unfortunately that Sins Past story arc with Gwen Stacy, where they dragged Gwen through the mud, and even that I want to say they've retconned even that now to that didn't really happen. I want to say I think they've
I
eliminated
think
that
I
from
think they're working on unraveling. Yeah, I think they said
yeah.
Mysterio or something like that. It was a whole
Yeah,
thing.
it was yeah, I think Nick Spencer, that was like one of the few things he did right was like, yeah, let's clean up the whole Gwen Stacy Norman Osborn thing. But with Karen Page, it was the opposite. They were just like, yo, let's take this girl and just drag her. I mean, they turned her into a drug addict porn star who sells out the love of her life, and you're like, oh my God, how could they do this to this this pure, beautiful woman? But it was that gritty storytelling. So seeing, I got a taste of the love they had in, like I said, that Kevin Smith story arc that I read. So, and then
Mhm.
seeing it be retold. Well, I never read the original, but seeing how this is definitely like a flashback of sorts to seeing her like this in this story arc, and how much love I have gained for Matt, I did feel for the guy. I did feel for the
Yeah,
guy because like, man, like this girl was like he it was love at first sight. Like, at least from this book's perspective. Like,
and
because like
first
literally
sight in quotation marks. But
love it first smell
yeah,
here,
yeah.
love it first here, I guess. Because
I
I
would
mean,
say if I read this, I would have been a bigger fan of Daredevil. I remember watching the first movie with Ben Affleck and being like, I kind of get this, but I also kind of don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the whole sleep deprivation tank and, like stuff like that. I read, like, it wasn't until the show I'm like, wait, Stick was a thing here? Why haven't Stick always been a thing? Like some of this other stuff that I found there, like, to me, the Netflix series was my Batman Begins of like, wait a minute, there's like cool stuff, that hardworking writers have put in this lore to make him a bigger
mhm.
deal, and we're kind of only with the movies going surface level. But I like in here, that one of the things that bugs me out about this is I like that Matt has a level of like cavalierness to him, where like he will fight a bunch of people in the street in the alley, right? Like he'll do that and he'll hustle some people at pool. Like he doesn't care about that. He actively notices that his friend is interested in somebody and he doesn't back down. Like there's some balls on Matt Murdock that I didn't realize, and I think more people should know about given this book.
Well, if it's the name, he's a daredevil,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even before he becomes Daredevil, when he loses his sight because he's willing to push an old person out of the way of this truck, which causes
Yeah.
the accident, which then blinds him. Like, this was always that guy who did not look before he would leap. He was
Yeah.
always that was just built into him. And what I like is you get a sense of how that's almost in his DNA because of
Yeah.
his dad. His dad
There
his
is.
dad is nuts, and his dad was also a ladies' man.
Yes, he
You
was.
and so he like you
There's a level of recklessness in the Murdoch family, is what I'll say.
mhm,
Not much on
definitely.
Mrs. Murdoch, huh? Oh, this the
Well,
it's the
I was gonna say, like, what are you
yeah.
talking about? She's
Yeah,
the nun.
yeah, Sister something, Marilyn or something like that.
Hmm.
Yes, okay, it's all coming back around now. Damn, man,
Which
you've got a hell of
that,
a you've got a hell of a family, bro. And then
but
he has a
even
brother, doesn't he?
he has
Mike Murdoch.
is it his brother or is it his cousin? I think it's his cousin.
I feel like it's some kind of weird Mr.
I
Pidlick.
thought it was I thought it was his cousin. I thought it was like a
I,
twin cousin, so to speak.
I'll look it up. But
A
yeah.
la what was that 50s show from back in the day that did that
Oh,
nonsense?
the Brady Bunch,
Patty,
right?
no, not the Brady Bunch.
I thought you meant adding like the cousin, like because the
No, there was a
ratings were
show that
dying.
that did that back in the day. Twin cousins.
It says early in his
The Patty
superhero
Duke
career, Matt
show. The Patty
Patty
Duke
Duke.
show.
This is early in his superhero career. Matt Murdock sporadically assumed the identity of a fictional twin brother,
Right.
um, of his to help conceal
Yeah.
his alter ego of Daredevil. Matt pretended that his twin brother, named Mike Murdock, was Daredevil's secret identity. Matt eventually got rid of Mike Murdock by setting up his death. But then I remember in the Chip Zdarsky run, he comes back. Mike just
Yes.
shows up, and I'm
Yes.
like, oh my
And I
god,
think, but
what's
I
going
think
on?
they
It's
kill
some,
him.
yeah, it's some more fuckery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm ready
Comic
to
books,
get all
baby.
up, all I'm ready to get all up in to this Daredevil Yellow. So spoilers alert, spoiler alert, people out there. Now, one of the things, and we say this quite often, I am doing my best to recap and review these issues, and we'll discuss, the important parts of them. But people, get this book. The art alone. Tim Sale has a very expressive art style that somehow is cartoonish in its proportions, but gets the point across. The drawings have their own character. I know there's some beautiful art in this, but I often think about the 1,000 tooth Joker in is it Long Halloween? The
Long
Joker with
Halloween.
the
Yep.
1,000 teeth.
Hmm.
Just he takes liberty with the realism, quote unquote, of the world, and really his art really shines in this, and the use of color and all that stuff. So while we'll be talking about the plot points, make it a point to search out this book and search out its art because it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
But our story starts off with Matt Murdock as Daredevil in his signature all red suit, surveying the skies of Hell's Kitchen. Blinded by a radioactive isotope when he was a kid that made contact with his eyes, Matt's other senses are heightened, but tonight his brain is in a fog. He's been struggling with the death of Karen Page, his co-worker and former lover, who was killed a few years earlier by the hands of Bullseye. Heartbroken and filled with grief, he takes the advice of his best friend Foggy Nelson, who suggested Matt write Karen a letter, telling her all the things that he wished that he could now that she was no longer there. This story is that very letter, and Matt thinks he can get back to the beginning. He can find the man without fear again. So sets up the premise pretty well.
Yep. And like you said, the art is gorgeous.
Yeah.
This, I'm pretty sure Tim was a painter.
Mhm.
And I say was because unfortunately Tim Sale did pass away just recently. He
Yes,
died
you
of,
did.
of kidney failure, I believe, which is tragic because it just makes you think like, man, like you
Those
could
things are
have needed,
preventable.
yes, preventable. You could have done a transplant somehow, some way. The team of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale have produced hit after hit after hit, and seeing the you can see the love being poured into his art, regardless of the character, unless this guy just loved every character.
Yeah.
Because the same level of quality, like you just said, you see on his Batman work, you see in his Spider-Man work, and you're seeing now in this Daredevil work, the way the red Daredevil costume just pops and the
Yeah.
detail that's on these pages is just, like you said, it's stunning, it's gorgeous. And the artistry of showing, like you can see how he understands how a body moves and flexes
100%.
when you see how, like, because he and throughout this book he's constantly showing Matt doing all the gymnastic stuff, and you
Yep.
see all the different poses and flips he's got to do, and you could just see all the different ways he knows, like, all right, in this pose the muscle flexes like this, and now his arms are looking like this. It's just
Yeah.
beautiful, it's fluid. You need minimal words, and that's something that also that's just wonderful about Jeff Loeb's writing in these stories is he knows when to let the art tell the story.
A
Because
hundred
in these
percent.
early pages, in these first few pages, there's really not a lot being said. It's just little things about him saying little things to Karen, and then just letting the flow of the story go with the art. And it's beautiful. Like I read this book so fast because it was so good. It's so good. It's so good.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. Watching him traverse New York City, he does it several times, and he does it with his, what do you call those things? Swinging baton swings, hooks, grappling batons. What is that thing called? Billy
Why are you
Club.
making me His Billy Club. Yes, his Billy
But
Club.
it's
Thank you.
but it's like a Billy Club grappling hook. What do you
It
what
does
would
it
you?
does everything. It does everything. Doesn't your my Billy Club does everything. Yours doesn't?
I think of Spider-Man. That thing doesn't obey the laws of physics at all.
I
But
know. I mean,
but watching,
I use mine to make dinner and then take out the trash. Like, come on.
I'm living in the past, bro. I'm living in 1992 over here.
For
But
real.
watching him traverse New York City, do all the flips, and watch that beautiful. They almost make the Billy Club look like a ribbon in a gymnastics sort of, performance, where it's just, doing all these tips, tricks around him. And again, it's like you said, it's the most motion you can feel in a static image because
Right.
it's showing you panel by panel how those motions would work and they make sense in your brain because he understands physiology. It's just an expert class in motion, in adrenaline. So good. We flash back to Matt and Foggy in college studying law. One of the things I like about this, and maybe this is something that continues, I know it does with like the red glasses and stuff, but he has the regular white glasses on in this. You can't see his eyes. Always kind of makes him look a little bit more mysterious.
Right.
I don't
Definitely.
think he ever dons the red glasses in this. I think he always just has the regular whites or
The
clears.
No, no,
The
he's wearing the dark shades.
the reading glasses.
The
I think I'm him in
Matt's
college.
wearing in college. He's wearing the dark ones.
Ah, I thought he was just wearing like wearing the regular white. I thought he was doing the anime villain all white. You can't see his
No,
eyes.
no. Oh well, no, they look. I mean, maybe who knows? How did you read yours
I read mine digitally.
digitally? I have like the an old trade paperback.
Ah, okay.
So maybe maybe yours maybe they colored it. I know that's something that does sometimes happen is they
Yeah.
recolor these things sometimes. So maybe in
Interesting.
your copy it's different. But mine, uh,
Ah, I can see it. I saw it right before it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
and that's why it is the whole issue the whole time. But I do know that is sometimes that does occur though. But
Okay.
this is still nevertheless it's a great time. It's a great read. I
Always.
love in this scene where he's meeting up with his dad now at I
The
forget what's the
diner.
name of the diner. But no,
Yeah.
is it a diner? Is it a it feels more like a giant restaurant,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's being hailed as, because now he's the kid. The
Battling
kid.
Jack.
No, they're
Yeah.
not calling what
Oh,
he
Kid
does
Murdoch.
say,
Kid Murdoch.
right, the
Yeah, yeah,
newspapers are
yeah.
using calling a kid because he's an old man.
Yeah, it's a joke.
They want to downplay the old man's sad
Like
stuff.
Tiny Lister, that guy's
Yes,
huge,
exactly.
but his name is
Exactly.
Tiny. Yeah,
Exactly.
your
So
boy Kid Murdoch is becoming more well known in the prize fighting circuit. He's won 10 of his last fights since he hired a guy named Sweeney as his manager, even though Sweeney is known behind closed doors as a fixer. So Matt,
as
even
that's his
blind, can
nickname. That's
tell.
his nickname. That's his nickname.
Yeah,
The Fixer. The Fixer.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like, my name is George. They call me the illegal gambler. Don't worry about that nickname, though.
right?
By the way, you have any money you want to invest? It's like, so Matt's like, I don't think this is on the up and up. And I'm like, I think you're pretty right, Matt.
I think they call him the Fixer because he's a doctor and he likes
Yeah,
to
right.
fix people. That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, yeah,
Fix his
exactly.
bones. Um, uh, I think the restaurant, all that kind of stuff, because it starts with a flashback with Matt and Foggy. They become fast friends in college studying law, but they have that image of just Jack there with the shadow over his eyes, looking like a grizzled old boxer. It's a beautiful image, and even if
Hmm.
it had no words on it, I know exactly who that man is.
Yeah,
He has
right.
the weight of the world
Yeah.
on his shoulders. He's scruffy. He's just trying to get it done. That's my man battling Jack right there, and I just that image has so much character in it. You know, just the drawing of his dad and that so much character. And they go to a restaurant. He's basically the mayor. He's telling these big jokes and he's laughing. He squirts ketchup on a
Hmm.
woman and basically pays for their dinner while flirting around with them. He's the king of New York, but Matt
Right.
just feels like there's an underlying something wrong, with how
Right.
everything's been laid out there.
Like, hey, man,
Um,
like everything's there's so many clues to what's gonna happen or things you're just not paying attention to, but it's being blinded by love and admiration, right? I mean, people who have good relationships with their parents, they see past all the flaws, right? I think
yeah,
that's what's happening here, right? Because this is all Matt has. Matt has his dad and he has Foggy,
yeah.
and that's it. And that's it. So
There's a lot, and it's understated here, but there's a lot of talk about making something of yourself. And there's a lot of talk about how little Jack thinks of himself in regards to his son. Like he says, like, don't be a pug like me. Don't be a fighter like me. Like he doesn't think very highly of himself. And I think that coupled with these wins here create a smokescreen for him. Because I think a smarter Jack would have been like, I don't know, man. 10 fights in a row? Like those guys lost pretty quickly and they do call you he never puts two and two together. And I can only
no,
assume he's blinded because he's finally made something of himself. He's finally accomplished that his kid gets to see him win. And that to him is more than connecting the dots that are obviously there. And those dots come quick and fast because uh, booked to take a fall against Crusher Creel, my man's, uh, Jack Murdoch disobeys his manager's orders and refuses to lose, even after learning all of his other fights against Sweeney, were under Sweeney, were fixed as well. With Matt in the crowd, Jack lays into Creel with a haymaker that knocks him out, winning the fight. Afterwards, he gives his fight robe to Matt and tells him and Foggy to head home, and he's seemingly ready to quit the boxing game. And he says he'll catch up with them later. While asleep in his apartment, Matt hears a gunshot and sirens. He races down the fire escape and finds his dad dead from a gunshot wound and a pile of discarded pistachio shells around him. The signature snack of the fixer's right hand man, Slade. Which I can never say the same way after Teen Titans.
I was going to say Slade
Slade.
Wilson. Slade Wilson.
Slade. He is a
They had
Terminator.
a they had to hire a professional killer to take out this guy. Wow, man. I guess
But
they heard about his
again,
left hook.
again with the artwork, Matt jumping basically down the fire escape. And then he gets down there and everyone's like, yo, what's going on, guys? You crazy? And Froggy's like, no, he's blind. They're like, we just saw what he did. That man is not blind.
And not
He's
just
like,
that,
yo,
but then
relax,
even
he's
even
blind.
as he's telling, like later on when he would tell the story he says it. He's like, I just told Foggy, I followed the sound of the cop cars and whatnot,
Yeah,
and it's just like, no, you
yeah.
didn't, man. You're Daredevil, bro.
He
You
went
you
down
knew
9 flights of
you
stairs. He went straight
yeah,
down like
like
9 flights of
man,
stairs. Um,
jump through fire, escape, running. It's craziness.
this is the basic story that we know, right? Jack doesn't want to take the fall, doesn't want to take a dive, and gets killed for it. It has this always. Do you know about if this has always been Jack's sort of story?
As far as I know, this was always the story. As far as I know, this didn't like reestablish anything. I'm pretty sure this has always been the story that
Okay.
this happened to his dad.
And then it's always just who pulled the trigger on the hit, depending on who they want it to be. Because like in the movie,
Yes.
it was Kingpin, right? In the 2003 film, it's
Well, yeah,
Kingpin
Kingpin,
that
I think, just like beats him to death in the alleyway.
leaves the rose.
Right.
He
Whereas
smells the
in this,
rose, and then
he has these
pistachio nuts.
lackeys, these lackeys doing it.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
I think eventually it all leads back to, oh, okay, this was all underneath the Kingpin.
yeah. Because Slade won't talk when later he's accosted by
Yeah.
Matt. He won't
Yeah.
say nothing. He's like, come on, man. Sweeney and Slade are arrested and put on trial, but a lack of evidence and strong alibis gets them both off the hook. Matt thinks that maybe the judge might have been paid off. As he hopes for an appeal, Matt continues living life. He graduates college with a law degree alongside Foggy and plays around with names for their potential practice. Still, with Jack's death on his mind, Matt digs up Jack's yellow fight robe and makes some alterations to it. He dons a superhero outfit inspired by heroes like the Fantastic Four, realizing that the law can only go so far. Determined to handle this himself, Matt declares it's time to step into the ring. And that's a hell of a first issue. Sets us right exactly where we need to be. Sets us in the mind of the hero. Let's go where we're going, Matt. I want you to whoop those guys' asses too. Sweeney is drawn intentionally. I mean, yeah, Sweeney and Slade are drawn intentionally slimy. They're
Yeah,
just slimy
definitely. I mean,
looking, snivy looking villains.
yeah,
So I like
definitely.
that as well. Like get him and just Matt donning this outfit. It's a gorgeous image here that the story ends with. Sale likes to play a lot with shadows as well. And
Yes.
I think it works to great effects with a character like Daredevil, who mostly, fights crime in the dark. Um, Matt adopts a childhood insult, Daredevil, as his moniker and traverses Hell's Kitchen looking for the men responsible for his father's death. He manages to find them both and corners them in a boxing gym. He pummels Slade and at gunpoint demands a confession over Jack's death. But the sick part is he seems to be enjoying it. My man Daredevil got a Glock, pointed up against a man's head, and is telling him to testify. And he seemingly is digging this darker part of him. What
No,
should I read into that?
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. I mean, hmm. Just again, so just to talk about sales art again, guys, this two-page spread where he bursts through the glass of the gym and he's doing all these flips while he throws his magical billy club that hits everything perfectly at perfect angles, clocking people, disarming everybody, all the while he's perfectly landing in the face of the one guy he wants to get to talk and then catching the billy club as it lands back in his hand. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing how much is going on these two pages. And then yeah, like, he's loving it. He is absolutely loving it. And one thing that I love that this story added to the mythos of Daredevil was how he created this costume.
yeah, from his
Before
dad's
it
jacket, right?
from his dad's boxing robe.
Right.
Originally, in the original story, it was just made from like old shirts. He just and that's why that's kind of I imagine that's why it was so out of different colors, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
Matt's a poor kid, right? So it's just like, man, I'm gonna get the fabrics I can get the most of. I got a lot of
He's
yellows, I got a
also
lot of reds,
blind, so
right?
like,
That
like I
true.
don't know if
That true.
that
I don't know
color
if
is a big deal in those instances, but hey,
that definitely makes sense. But I like how that they added that layer of grieving to this, right? Like I'm gonna put on my dad's a robe,
his
to
uniform almost, if you want to consider like a
his
soldier
uniform.
dying on the, on the
Exactly.
battlefield. He's rocking with that, and like you said, those beginning panels, the two words that come to mind are like, like effortlessly efficient. He's effortlessly efficient as a hero, and part of this is that rage. That the ricocheting of the Billy Club is bonkers when you consider that he's setting that in motion as, like you said, he's doing something completely different, and knowing that those two heads will come exactly where he needs them to. But
Yeah.
um, Daredevil chases the Fixer for several blocks before following him into the train station. The Fixer attempts to escape on the train tracks himself, but Matt follows the smell of his cigar. Speaking of smoking, this has become a PSA about the effects of stress and nicotine as the Fixer succumbs to a heart attack.
Right
Right?
there.
Don't do drugs, kids. Right as
That's right.
Daredevil nabs him. Even though he's in a path of an oncoming train, Matt diverts the locomotives so he spares the Fixer's life, even though the Fixer does die from the heart attack.
Well, no,
Um,
I don't think he did it to spare his life because I think he
did it
knew
spare his
he
body?
just spare his body, which I was surprised by. I thought the opposite was going to happen. I thought
Yeah.
just like in the movie, the
That light
legendary
at the
Ben
end of the
Affleck.
tunnel, that's the A
They're right.
train.
That's the A train, right?
Yeah.
I thought that's what he was gonna do. Like, oh, I'm gonna leave you here to get just
Yeah.
destroyed by this train. But
Yeah.
he diverts it instead, which I thought I one thing that this story unfortunately does never even touches on, unless I missed it. It doesn't touch on his Catholic background.
No, not really. I don't think he ever goes to a church.
Man, never goes to a church, never even talks about it. So I thought maybe that this part was going to introduce it, and it never does. It never
Yeah.
does. But it just
Yeah,
shows
because
that, like, okay,
besides that, it doesn't really give him a reason to pull back besides his own morality. He's
right,
that's usually why he's not judge, jury, and executioner. He believes in a higher power to do that kind
exactly.
of stuff. But yeah, like just I think this is so Greek tragedy in itself because ultimately I feel just as somebody who read it, like it was anticlimactic, and that's what revenge is oftentimes, right? It's like
Hmm.
anticlimactic. Like this is okay. He's dead now. You know,
Well,
I
yeah, yeah. I
ran
mean,
him.
think about it.
I made him run until he died.
Yeah. You robbed me.
Yeah,
Damn you, Marlboro. Damn
yeah.
you.
Because he says
You
something like,
know?
I hope he doesn't die before I get to him." You know, like he's having these thoughts in his head. I hope he doesn't fall over before I get to him.
Yeah.
Um, he gives them up to the authorities and tells them about Slade and the Fixer killing Jack Murdock, and he surrenders the body of the Fixer to the authorities, and he introduces himself to them as Daredevil.
Which I
And
was just like, the moment the cop showed up, I'm like, okay, this is where he gets the Spider-Man treatment. All right, well, you're under arrest, or the guns. Nope. Just like, hey, you're cool. You just we saw the path of destruction on the way.
yeah, right, right, yeah, yeah.
And now
The
you're
broken
here over
windows.
standing over this dead body. But oh, okay, you want us to arrest this guy, and this is what it was. Cool guy dressed in red and yellow. I was like,
It's just it's just a trail of windows and disabled mobsters. He left a
yeah,
trail in his wake. But yeah,
which
I dig that.
yeah, I'm just wondering if this is also just playing off the whole idea that like only Spider-Man was seen as a menace at the time, where it's just like, okay, we could see part of your face, so we can trust you. It's
And the
that
irony about
Spider-Man.
that is, I mean, the irony about it is that majority of the hate was coming from the Daily Bugle, right? Maybe
Hmm.
that's a little bit of it. There's no bad press on my man, on my man Daredevil out there. I mean, he gets his name up pretty quick. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But like
Yeah.
he gets a rep pretty freaking quick. I thought that was pretty surprising. So Foggy Nelson seems to be having just as busy of a day as he's interviewing receptionists for their new law firm. Completely discouraged by the applicants, the luck of Nelson and Murdoch changes when a beautiful woman named Karen Page shows up for an interview, and Matt instantly falls in love.
Instantly. Can't even see
So
this woman.
romantic. No,
Can't even see this woman. And
and all that stuff that he says, right? He says a bunch of like flowery, like the minute I smell your perfume or whatever, and I'm like, oh Matt,
yeah, it's
I
just
believe
head
in love.
head
It's okay.
head over heels. And the innocent way that she's drawn, like she looks like something out of an old 50s, like she looks like she could be Leave It to Beaver's mom.
Yeah, yeah, like from the pinup days or whatever. But she seems incredibly wholesome, especially with
Hmm.
all the trash we had just been dealing with these mobsters and stuff.
Right.
It seems to be the kind of seems to be the
Some
kind
the
of
thing
girl.
the pureness that you'd want to come home to.
Yeah,
He's just been running around subways and through these mobster areas of the city to then come home to his office to
yeah,
see this
his
sense of
wife.
purity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This
Like someone he
this
could
this
picture
woman
being there
looks
forever. Yeah,
this woman looks like the definition of wholesome. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So I can you blame the guy? No, not really. Not really,
yeah.
not at all.
Keep her away from
And
the
for the
brown.
and
Keep her
it was
away from the brown.
well, oh God. Yeah. And that's what makes it heartbreaking for me was because I read the Casada run, the Kevin Smith Casada run way before I knew this, so I know what's to come. So to
Yeah,
see her looking all pure like this is like, wow, like this is the woman he fell in love with. This is like how she was. This is why, right? I mean, even
yeah,
though this book doesn't cover it, he's we know that Matt is that person who's always looking to cleanse his soul. And here he's
yeah,
looking at an angel. He's looking at an angel. So
yeah.
why wouldn't he fall in love? Like, oh my God, this woman's like perfect, right? She's as pure as snow. So you can see why he would fall in love with somebody like this. And her eventual fall from grace is all the more heartbreaking when you see this scene here.
I think quite similarly to why I love the story of the Dark Knight and the Long Halloween and how it's like a tale of the fight for Harvey Dent's soul. Daredevil is actively trying to clean Hell's Kitchen, and one could argue that uh, Karen becomes a casualty of that war. You
Yep.
know, everything gets poisoned in Hell's Kitchen. Everything gets struck down, no matter how clean, no matter how nice, no matter how homey, any of that's pure. It will all get drugged down with the muck because that's where the muck lives. Muck lives in Hell's Kitchen,
It
you know.
does.
And he can't. She, eventually, not even she can keep dirt from under her fingernails. You know. But it's so crazy because this is the canon event, right? Like this is
Yeah.
her meeting him. It's what sets both their paths to where they eventually go. And it breaks my heart that later on he even opines that like if you never came back, like you would have been alive. Like like he feels like his he has a role in her death and in a role in her getting dirtier and dirtier and thus.
Yeah, but she lived in New York City, so one of these many ultra events would have gotten her anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, right. It was this or the falling debris, in the
Right,
Battle of New
falling
York.
debris,
Couldn't
Galactus
figure it
showing
out.
up for the 50th time, the
Hulk throwing a
Skrull
minivan because he's
invasion,
in a bad mood.
Namor flooding the
Flooding
city.
yeah, yeah.
You
She
know,
got off pretty well. She got a good relationship out of it. So things at Nelson and Murdoch Attorneys at Law pick up quickly as Matt nabs their biggest client yet, Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. The crew celebrate this massive win, and when Foggy makes fun of Matt, Karen sticks up for him. I was like, girl. She's like, you shouldn't make fun of Mr. Murdoch. I was like,
mm,
what we doing? What we doing out here, girl? And I think Matt's pants got a little tight. Uh, proud as he might be, Matt is not done being a vigilante. He's not as high profile as, let's say, a Spider-Man or a Thor, and he even laughs at the idea that his name could be spoken in the same breath as those A-listers, which I'm like, oh, Matt, you don't even know. You're gonna get a movie, you're gonna get a TV show, everyone's gonna love you. Don't even worry about it.
everybody.
Everybody.
I love the way Tim Sale draws the thing.
Oh
Not
yeah, with the
many.
deep crevices.
Yes, because not many people are able to uh show the thing as a monster. He is a monster. This is not
Yeah,
something you look at and go, "Oh, it's cute." He's the thing. There's a
yeah,
reason why when this dude first debuted and transformed into this thing, he called himself the Thing.
yeah.
He's not cute. It's not something pleasant to look at, and he captures that perfectly on that first page of issue 3, where it's just like, oh my god, this is this
It's a
haunting.
zoom up right into his face.
It's just yeah, all the crevice and the craggliness and the mug. It's just not. Hey, are you the lawyer? You know,
Yeah,
and
literally
this is
smashing through your window.
and literally smashing through the window. So I love that. I love that because I sometimes feel like modern artists love to try to make the thing cute, and it's like,
pretty,
bro,
pretty,
this is
pretty him up. Yeah. It's
it's not
crazy that
cute.
one of his defining traits is that mega brow, right? That
Yes,
mega, that mega ridge, that he calls an eyebrow, is really a
mhm.
defining trait. And the people who are able to nab that are really what when it looks good. Like I even saw the Roger Corman Fantastic Four nailed the brow.
Oh
They
yeah,
even
that
had the
face
brow
was
nailed. And I was like,
it was
that's a
gross. It's
pretty
just
thing.
and
I was
that's
like,
the
that's
way it
pretty.
should look. That's the way it should look. So I thought I just wanted to point that out how beautiful he makes the thing look. How
Yeah.
beautifully hideous.
Also, a point I want to say, that moment that you're speaking of is one of my top 10 comic moments of all time, unironically, because I think it's hilarious that he's like, "You're an invisible woman, and you're the Thing, and you're Human Torch, and I'm Mr. Fantastic."
Fantastic. Woo!
It's not like Mr. Fantastic, Kid Fantastic, Woman Fantastic. It's like you guys get descriptors about your powers, and I'm gonna name myself Mr. Fantastic. I'm like, come on, Reed. You could have gave the other guys big. You could have been a gladiator, Silk, whatever. Uh, Inferno. No,
Something.
no, you're the Human Torch.
Plastic Man is like in the background going, "Hey man, like
I could have been
you
Mr.
know,
Fantastic.
like what?"
Two and
Norm Macdonald has a great bit on that same scene where it was
oh
same thing
really?
where it was like, I'm the craggly thing and I turn myself invisible. Same as like, I'm gonna be Mr. Fantastic. And they all turn to him like, hold on. You're gonna call
Wait a
yourself
minute.
what?
Right.
You're not gonna call yourself like Stretch Man or Rubber Dude. He's like, no, I do fantastic things, so I'm Mr. Fantastic.
And
You jerk.
to bring this full circle, as we always do, you were just talking about Plastic Man. He probably was like, "What the hell?" Like you could have called me anything, and maybe he could have been, I don't know, Mr. Terrific. But we do know he joins the Terrifics, uh, so
That
maybe
he
they did
does.
get all the way. They get all the way around. You got the Terrific Four, and you got the Fantastic Four. So all comes full
Perfect.
circle. All comes
Love
full
the
circle.
segue. Love the segue.
You know. So, um, yeah, Marvel's first family. I mean, that's a huge thing to nail. Now that he's getting his kind of his name out there as a superhero, he meets up with Foggy and Karen at a bar, and they go to shoot pool. There are some obnoxious bar dwellers who are causing trouble for Matt's friends, so he agrees to play them blind in a game of pool for money. With his heightened senses, he makes quick work of the gentlemen and outright embarrasses them for making Helen Keller jokes about him when he first arrived. They leave the bar after a successful night out. Matt puts Karen in a cab and gives her a home remedy for hiccups. And then he wishes her a good night. I love that once he wishes her a good night, he's like, "Oh, I know exactly what's about to go down." Like
Mm-hmm. Well, no,
he's
I
like,
think
"Good thing
he's
she's
I think he knew
gone."
I think that's the whole reason. That's the whole reason he sent her away. Was he
Yeah,
was like, okay, there's
yeah,
danger here. I gotta get my girl out of here, and I
yeah.
gotta
Now that
handle
that's
business.
done, now that
I gotta
that's
handle
done,
business because
you
she
guys
was
ready to come
already
out? Yeah,
he was all like she was wanting, of course. Yo, come with me. Let's head back back home together. And he's like, nah, I gotta take care of these bastards who tell shitty jokes. Because
yeah,
that's one thing I love. I love the fact that he brings that back, where he's
yeah,
just like, okay, you guys want to make jokes? I got some jokes for you.
yeah, yeah.
He's like,
But
I've heard them all, you dummies.
yeah, and like I said, just the same way he does in pool, later in the alley by the bar, Matt can tell he's about to be confronted by the angry men he just beat at pool. Adorned with weapons, they try their best to pummel a blind man, but Matt's agility, his instinct, his quick senses, and his fighting skills make evading these punks look like child's play to him. He ricochets, he ricochets like a pool cue or something, hits somebody in the back of the head at one point, and he escapes with his life. And he kind of leaves his attackers in a pile. Again, another, and
Yeah.
he seems to relish in it. It's not. I honestly think he could have ran on foot and been good, but I think he wanted to teach these guys another lesson.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This he's like you said, it's thrilling to him. It's thrilling to
Yeah,
him. He's loving this. This taking matters into his own hands because justice failed him,
yeah,
right? Because if you think about it, right, when his father's first killed, he then goes on to finish college.
yeah.
It's
Do
not
things
like
the right way. Yeah,
right. It's not so it's not like he immediately then takes matters and so he like lets it brew. And you can imagine over this time of brewing, like, okay, I trusted this system. This is the system that failed me. So I'm gonna go through all of this. And during that time is when he really starts to train, as we know from later comics.
yeah,
So that's where he really becomes Daredevil. And now he's just like, okay, now not only can I take care of you in the courtroom, I can take care of you on the street. This guy's
yeah.
loving it. This guy's loving it.
It,
This is Bruce Wayne coming back from training. You
yeah.
know, this is that's what
It's
Matt
quite
does.
literally this is the definition of the term vigilante justice.
Hmm.
He believes the things that he is doing are just. These are the sentences these men deserve for the crimes that they've committed. Trying to attack a blind man in an alley. There must be consequences to be had, and the Daredevil will make sure that everyone gets their just due. So later, Matt goes to see Slade as he is slated. I just realized I wrote that. Slade is slated to be executed for killing Jack and a bunch of other things. He tries to get more info about who he and the Fixer worked for, but Slade is stone cold and won't give up any info, eventually taunting Matt by asking him to bring pistachio nuts. I don't mess with this guy, but that's a cold line there. That
Like
was
the
a cold,
nerve.
I don't snitch
The,
kind of line right
I,
there. He's like,
yeah.
"You idiot!
He
What do you
said,
think? I'm gonna, hey, yo, hey." I'm like, "What?"
hey,
I'm
hey,
like, "This
yo,
is
hey.
hey."
He says to him, "Are you as deaf as you are blind?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh
He's like,
my
"I ain't
God.
talking." Are you kidding
I am
me?
not
I ain't
talking.
talking.
He's like, I got kids, man. They can kill me 1,000 times, but the bastards the people I snitch on will eliminate my bloodline. So
Yeah,
I'll die. I'll go down, but I ain't gonna let my kids and whoever else is related to me take the blow for me snitching. No, 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 no. but this guy is so sleazy.
Oh,
Speaking of
he's
like
scumbag.
the thousands of teeth, you remember the smile he gives, and you see
Oh
all
yeah.
the nasty teeth?
Like I
That
said, I think of when he's like, "Hey, come on, get out of here." I'm thinking that his body contorted that way. Um, but going back to the Batman of it all, like they ramp this up in a very similar fashion, right? Where immediately it's about kind of rounding that corner and getting immediate revenge for an actual event, and then when push comes to shove, he starts to kind of fight a stronger and stronger rogues gallery. Eventually he's going to confront a super villain for the very first time, someone with powers
right.
that could do quite a bunch of damage, and that changes the entire scope of his superhero lifestyle, after a point. So I think that that's the same thing with Batman. Like, your existence invites challenge, right? The whole Vision quote of like, we but you we buy armor, they buy armor, piercing bullets. The whole speech from Gordon and stuff. So this right here is an allusion to a deeper, darker crime underworld that Matt has no idea about. He thought he got the
No.
guys, and now that he's trying to go up the hill, dead end. They've closed, they've closed that end for him until later. Showing how much the reach of whoever is pulling the strings on all this kind of stuff is. It just shows that Matt right now is kind of playing with pennies. You know. So I think
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting because everything's about to
And he
open the
and
hell
he
up.
and he's really, as you see in the story, as he goes along, he's truly oblivious to it.
Yeah.
He was just so dead set. Like he thought, okay, this guy is the end of my revenge trail. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's just like, no, this like, speaking of in Dwayne the Rock Johnson, as you like to
Yeah.
bring up, he
My
has yet to
man.
even understand who the final boss is. He
The
doesn't
final
know.
boss.
He's
We've been doing
clueless
that
to it.
all week over here. The final boss.
The final boss.
You
I
gotta
I, I
say
love
it.
I love Mama Rhodes. He kills me with Mama Rhodes.
Yeah.
Mama Rhodes.
Mama Rhodes. The
But
first
yeah,
good thing Dwayne Johnson's done in a while.
in a long time.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, got him behind bars, seemingly dead to rights. Still won't get 100% what he wants. This is uh um a modicum of what he will deal with when he deals with some of the bigger wigs and the red tape around that, which is why Daredevil exists. Is this idea that he once trusted one system, and he still kind of does. He doesn't ever quit his job as a lawyer, or at least not for any long stretch of time.
Right.
And then if that fails, then he goes to the vigilante side of it.
That's
So
it.
yeah, really, really, really good there. So at the office, a woman named Grace tries to hire our avocados at law and seems skittish, like she's scared someone will come after her, and she kind of says as much. She leaves in a hurry, and later the owl arrives, saying that the woman from earlier is no doubt lying about him, and he requests their services. So I know this guy as Owlsley,
Yep.
Owlsley from the
That's his
show.
last name. Owlsley. Owlsley.
Owlsley from
Forget
the
his
show.
I forget
What
his
is the owl?
first
What is
name.
the owl here? Like, what is your background on like the owl as a character? Like, what is he? Is he half
Oh,
bird? Like, what? I know
he's
nothing.
no
I
no
know
no no
the
no 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 no. He
businessman
is just
that.
another local crime boss. He's a wannabe kingpin. He runs a
Okay.
small area of New York, and he has, I believe, a belt that allows him to fly. And
Mhm.
because he has, as you can see,
He
it's
has.
him
He
say,
says he has hollow bones.
yeah, which whatever. He just more it's more the haircut and the eyes, how he looks like
Yeah.
an owl. And he gets this belt that allows him to like levitate, a la Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he's able to he just floats around, and he's the owl. I mean, he's that.
Leland.
There
Leland.
you go, Leland Owlsley. There you go.
Leland
Yeah,
Owlsley. I thought
and
they get it. I thought they did a great job portraying him as a normal person in the Daredevil show. A normal person that had his hands in all the pots and knew all the underground and stuff. He was kind of like how Wesley was. I think he ends up dying though. I think someone kills him. Fist
I
throws him
feel
into an elevator shaft.
I feel terrible. I have no recollection of this person in the show.
No, he has glasses. So you remember in the very beginning, he used to meet with the families. He was kind of like timid Kingpin was. He was trying to get everybody together, but he was still fairly shy. He would kept sending Wesley as his sort of person, and then eventually Owsley, if I'm not mistaken, tries to cut him out, and he's like, "Well, if your boss is not even here, then what is it? Like how important is it to him?" And he starts to try to like cut him out and stuff like that, and then Fist throws him down the elevator shaft.
I don't
But
remember.
there's no allusions to owls. The most thing is that he has glasses. He has a shaven face. There's no whatever you want to call that freaking
Right.
hairstyle Marvel was obsessed
That's probably why it just never clicked for me, him being in the show. I'm telling myself I'm gonna do a rewatch, especially with the new Daredevil show coming out. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll
Oh, it's
definitely
worth it,
point it out
people.
this time. Oh yeah,
Check it
I
out.
trust me, I know. I've rewatched certain scenes. Like I've watched
Is he?
that.
It says he's from Daredevil issue 3, so I guess he's one of his earlier
Yes. Yeah.
villains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think Stan understood the level of hero that Daredevil was, because Daredevil, all he has are heightened senses
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
hell of a lot of
yeah,
training. He's not
yeah,
Spider-Man. He's not a member of the Fantastic Four. He's not the Hulk. He's a regular dude. So like you said
yeah,
earlier, when he does come across an actual supervillain later on in the story, it's big. It's big. He has to totally rely on his guile
yeah,
and his quick thinking, to fight this villain. He can't rely on super strength. He can't rely on, optic blasts. This is a
yeah.
regular dude who's just really smart and well trained.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how well you see. If I throw a toaster while you're in the bathtub, same thing's gonna happen. You know
You know
what
what I'm
happens
saying?
when a frog
If
gets
you're
hit by
fighting,
lightning?
same thing that happens to everything else.
Hey, say that on a blind date. If she can repeat that, she's a keeper. All right, make sure you guys all remember that. So speaking of services, Matt as Daredevil continues his early crime fighting days, which puts him on the path of, like we said, the supervillain Electro, who can absorb and discharge electricity. This is Matt's first fight with a villain who has powers, so Electro has the upper hand early on, delivering teeth-rattling bolts of electricity to our man without fear. Matt uses his powers of deduction to outsmart Electro and find out that the name Daredevil is making rounds. People are saying he's the man who fixed the fixer. So he's kind of hype about that. Matt smiles at the thought that he's making a name for himself as a crime fighter before flirting with some Broadway showgirls. As Matt, I don't think he was flirting. He was just standing there flexing, and he allowed them to fawn on the physique of the Daredevil. Um,
I don't blame him.
I, I like that they're like, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend?" And all he can think about is Karen. It's like, come
Yeah.
on, man, what are you doing, bro?
I mean, but he admits he liked it. I mean, how do you not like that attention? You know what I mean? Like, come on, you
Yeah.
can't blame the guy. You can't
That's
blame the
why I
guy.
love
Come on.
when he's in suit flirting with Jen Walters in the show. I'm like, this is Matt. Like, what's up? We done crime fight. You wanna like go
Exactly.
chill?
Yeah,
You wanna go chill?
you know what I'm saying?
City on
You got
fire.
Netflix. You got Netflix.
Yeah, right. I got a show we can watch. So I can just imagine that too. So speaking of flirting, catches a glimpse of the escaping Daredevil from the window of their office. This sparks a conversation between her and Foggy while Nelson seems salty about Karen's apparent cape fetish. Their conversation is interrupted by Matt, who walks in nonchalant. They joke about Daredevil being her potential boyfriend, and when Karen confirms that she's single, Foggy asks her to go bowling with him, and Matt invites himself to Foggy's displeasure. How did you feel about all of this? I feel like Nelson's being
Hey,
a little bit of a jerk early on, when he's like, "You should be doing dictation." All right, what was the last thing I said? And she just repeats exactly the last thing he says, and then he goes, uh, "Well, yeah, and yeah, it's Mister Nelson, not Foggy or whatever." Um, Jerk, a little bit of a
yeah.
jerk.
I mean, he's
Do you remember
really.
this? It's like, is this something that is this like a Harry Osborn, Peter thing, where like they all always fighting for something, the affection of something, attention, etc., and so forth. I know these
I'm
guys
not.
as mainly friends, but even in the show, they had a moment where it seemed like Foggy might have been interested in Karen, and then eventually comes back around to Matt anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how canon this was to the original Daredevil issues from back in the day. I could totally see Stan doing something like this though, because Stan
Love
loved that
triangle,
romance drama. He
love
loved those
triangles,
love triangles. So
bub.
I could see him doing it, but the way it's portrayed here, and Matt's just willing obliviousness to this, like, You, bro, you hear heartbeats, man.
Yeah,
But all you care
he's gotta be playing chicken, right? He's playing chicken with Foggy.
something.
He's
You know,
like, you
he's just
won't tell
like
me not to come. You won't tell me not to come, so I'm coming,
right.
right? I'm coming, right?
That's
I'm good,
it.
right, bro? Because
That's
it's just
it. And
a platonic bowling thing, right? So I'm good, right, bro? And I'm like, what are you doing?
exactly.
Get have your cake and eat it too, huh, man? Uh,
He's in love. I mean, hey, you right? What do what do they say about love?
he's
It's blind,
blind.
right? It's blind.
He's like double blind. That's
He's
terrible.
double blind.
Double blind.
Just
Uh,
running over poor Foggy's heart with a Mack truck. Or
knowing
that's
that.
or you know what that is? That's the A train.
Bing boom. He also
That's it.
he also knows that that Karen already is fangirling over Daredevil, so he already knows he has a foot in the door. Seemingly, Matt. This is just saw on the wound. You know, like Foggy's already got a foot out the door because he's not a big muscular acrobat. So yeah, I just think that that's so funny because I imagine these guys as good friends. So whenever it gets down to this whole like Billy Club measuring contest between these two, I find it pretty interesting. At the
No,
bowling
definitely.
alley,
It's at the bowling alley is some of the funniest exchanges. It's
yeah, because
great to
Foggy tries to show off his skills in an effort to woo Karen, but it's actually Matt's inability to bowl that causes her to get a bit handsy with Matt as she teaches him how to bowl. They hit one pin. She didn't get a strike. They didn't do nothing. They hit one pin and immediately causes her to hug him in celebration.
yep.
Like
And
arms
Foggy
around him, foot up in celebration. And Foggy's just
exactly.
pissed.
He's writing down the score in the background like this
Yeah.
mother. Oh my god, you
Bro, he's been
bastard!
practicing all week. He's been practicing all week for this moment. He's doing trick shots. And Karen's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Matt, do you
This
need
is
any
just
help?
this
Mr.
is just
Murdoch,
like
can I
that
help you?
Nachios girl in
Yeah.
college.
Damn Greeks. he's he's over it, bro. He's over it. Uh Later, Slade is executed and Matt stands witness, hoping that this could be a cathartic and healing moment, but it isn't. Matt comes into work and notices that Foggy is pacing. He's not making sense at first, telling Matt that he sent Karen to the Owl's office for paperwork. That isn't the biggest news, though. He drops an absolute bombshell when he confesses to Matt that he's going to propose to Karen, showing him the diamond ring and everything. How did you feel first about Matt's lack of, I guess, what would you call that? Lack of closure with the death of Slade, seemingly. Like he went
I
over
mean,
there thinking it would
that's what
be
it
an
is,
open
right?
revelation.
It's revenge, right? It's that classic trope where they always say, "Oh, you know, you're not going to get what you want out of revenge," and he doesn't. He doesn't. It doesn't bring back what you lost. It
Yeah.
doesn't. So, I thought this was another opportunity for them to bring in the Catholic guilt stuff, and they don't. I really
Yeah.
was waiting for it this whole story, and it just never happens.
You're
But
right. That's the one part of this that's missing. I would think that's the one part of this main characterization that I think is missing. I think it actually could have added a bit of seasoning to everything.
yes,
You know,
yes. I
as he
mean, the story
battles
is
with
still
it.
good, but if you are a Daredevil person, I mean, even if you've just watched the show, you know what a core characteristic this is to his character.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's just not in this is like, wow, okay. And like you said, it would have added such another layer of depth to his personality and just more to explore with his inner thinkings and his moral compass. And
Yeah.
it's never brought up. It's never brought up. And then
Yeah.
just the fact that he's so after that, it's he's
Oh,
still
and the
not
wedding ring
even
stuff. How do you feel about the wedding ring stuff?
yeah, I mean, I feel like this is Foggy, like acknowledging, like, yo, I gotta, you know what, I'm, you're,
What strategy is that though? What strategy is
it's,
I'm not winning, so
he
I'm going
knows
to
he's
marry
getting
her?
owned. He knows right now if this is like a game of one-on-one basketball, Matt has been
Yeah.
taking him to the hole and dunking on him and layupping on him and just scoring all the points. So he's like, all right, I gotta go for
So he's gonna buy the
the big
court.
slam.
Wait, he's gonna buy the court, kick everybody off.
That's it.
What's he
That's it.
trying
He's
to do
like,
out here, man?
you know, I'm gonna take my ball and go home. You know, that's
N-
it.
N- Nelson, this is some class A hating right there, Mr. Nelson. This is a class A hating. And again, like I know later on they set up kind of a sad scene for him, but I'm like, you set all this up for yourself, bro. Like, read the room, read the blind guy's reading the room, read the freaking room. Uh,
Yeah.
when
Poor
when
poor
Karen
Foggy.
When Karen doesn't return from her rendezvous with the owl, Matt gets worried and suits up to look for her. Desperate to find her, Matt learns how to hone in his superhero hearing and isolate voices. This was very cool. I assumed he already knew how to do this somehow, but it is the power of boners that teaches him how to. It teaches him how to decipher the
Well,
many different sounds he hears
this
during the day.
is this is still early on in his superhero career, so this is him learning how to do this, and I love how Sale captures him standing at the very peak
Yeah,
of the Empire State Building, like the top of the antenna. He's just standing there,
on the
trying to
spire. Yeah,
hear this one voice. Like he's
yeah,
siphoning out all of it. This is very a la Superman, right? Where Superman goes to space and hears
bro.
everybody
Oh,
on the planet.
I was actually thinking of the description of Martha Kent, right? Like, focus on an island. Like, like think of one voice out there. Like, and even uh, you're gonna be better at explaining this than me, but they even find a way to do artistic stuff with the word bubbles to isolate all the noise to one singular
Mhm.
voice. Even that is displayed in art with words in a weird way.
No, I mean, and just the way he's also able to capture the landscape of Manhattan from that
Yeah,
perspective. It's just all, and this is all done with like watercolor esque artwork. It's gorgeous, and yeah, exactly. Like he's like as he's listening to every voice, he's also just whisper like he's throwing out these tiny whispers to Karen, like, speak my name. All I need to hear is for you to say Mr. Murdoch one time
yeah,
and I'll know where you're at. And that's what he's listening for. And we all know Manhattan. We know Manhattan, especially you and I. That
yeah.
place, even Matt says it's a city that never sleeps,
Right.
but it does quiet down a little bit
It
here and
does.
there. And so he's waiting for that opportune time, and he's just trying to hear that one little voice of Karen Page. And yeah, all the onomatopoeia and the sound effects boom, are going on, and
I
he's
said
slowly
it
just
had to have been an assault. I mean, New York City in general has to be an assault on the senses, let alone a man with super senses.
oh yeah.
Sirens and gunshots and people screaming and all kinds of bedlam, and eventually he's able to isolate Karen's voice and head in the direction that as fast as he can. And really, like they find a way to show that he's going literally as fast as he's like dropping from buildings. He's racing over to where that voice is. It turns out that the owl kidnapped Karen as a show of force to Matt Murdock, who he is hoping to use as a puppet in court. With Matt's skills and supposed built in sympathy, Murdock is the kind of lawyer supercriminals would love. By the time Matt gets there, the owl is gone, but the woman, Grace, who showed up earlier at his office, is watching Karen. She explains that the owl was able to get personal dirt on people and blackmailed them to do his bidding. She rejects Karen's pleas for help. Luckily, Daredevil arrives, bends the bars of her prison, and frees the damsel in distress. She calls him the man without fear, and as he leads her to safety, Daredevil calls Karen by her name, something that she notices instantly. And Matt plays it off saying that she's been in his dreams for years. I was like,
Yeah,
"You
like
sly son of a."
I love the fact that he goes with it and flirts with it. I'm thinking he's gonna say, "Well, I've overheard, Mr. Murdoch or Foggy calling you." Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He like, oh, I've dreamed about you, woman. Like
yeah. I'm
he's
like, "What you
letting like he's into her. He's just throwing it out there. I was totally convinced that he was about to reveal his identity to her in this moment.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you know what? Just so you know, I'm Matt.
we've
That's
gotten
it.
here. You figured it out already. So let's just finish
That's
the rest
it.
of this.
That's it. And one thing I love is throughout these issues, Tim has really made a point to highlight her face often.
Yeah.
It's almost like he wants us to also fall in love with Karen, like just how cute she is, how sweet and innocent
She's the
she
bright
is as
light in every
always.
scene, right? In every
Yeah,
scene, even in shadow,
yeah,
she's the bright light.
yep, exactly, exactly. Kind of like that old filmmaking trope where
Yeah,
they would
glow. They glow.
the glow. Some people they would just show the eyes, whereas like this is definitely somebody that would just put all the light on to show like this is the innocent character. This is a sweet character. And he constantly does that with Karen, like even going through it now, it's just like yeah, like they really wanted us to just see the innocence. And
Yeah.
speaking, the foreshadowing of Karen, fortunately, comes to light even in this when Grace, that character, she goes, someday you'll have a secret and you'll see how much it's worth to you. I thought
Yeah.
that was so like, oh, you
Yeah.
foreshadowing bastard, Jeff, you are.
Well,
The
yep,
way
yep.
Jeff
That's
Lowe
born again
wrote
right
this
there.
line,
Yeah.
like, oof, yep. Because if you know Daredevil, you know in about 30 years what this woman's gonna put this poor guy through.
Yeah, and I also, not a long tangent, but that the setup for that story I thought was masterful. The setup for like her being strung out and having to sell the one thing that she can for a like I thought that was so cool. Just the way that built so much drama here. But no, she's still innocent Karen here. And again, me not knowing anything about anything, the owl returns and snatches up Daredevil and starts to fly with him. So I'm like, I'm Finn in Star Wars. They can fly now. Like he's flying. He can fly now. So the two do battle, and the owl tries to escape, but Daredevil is hot on his trail and tackles him into the river. They have an underwater fight where Matt is almost strangled to death, and then, as quickly as he came, the owl disappears. Did I? That's what happened, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I was trying to
Pretty much.
decipher some of those underwater panels, and they were a little hard too. But it seems like he almost got strangled underneath the water,
No,
and then
slightly. Seems like that happened a little bit, but again, something that's now happened numerous times by this point in the story is how many times we see Daredevil just bounding around and jumping around and doing all these crazy things. I
yeah.
love the fact that he does this over water while being grapple hook, billy club hooked
Mm-hmm.
to the owl, and even he realizes like, yo, I'm really pushing it here.
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
pushing here. But this dude messed with my girl. I can't have this. I can't have this being tolerated. So he takes the
Yeah.
chance, and
He's a
he I think he
habitual
gets
line stepper. The owl is a habitual line stepper. We can't just let this kind of stuff go on.
unity.
Yeah. Can't let this kind of stuff go on. Cold blooded. Can't let this
That's
kind of
right.
stuff go on. You know?
That's right.
No, I love that the owl left. And normally I'm like, and the owl gets away. But Matt's like, nah, screw this. He jumped out of a window. There's nothing there.
Yep.
There's nothing there to catch him.
Over water. Over
Yeah.
water. It's
Yeah.
insane.
He's like, not again. He's just going over there, uh, just on the anger that he would try to do anything to Karen. The next day, Foggy goes to give a bouquet of roses to Karen, but he can see her and Matt seemingly dancing from a distance, so he goes back outside and throws the bouquet in the trash. Again, you can't love bomb people, Foggy. We learned this now in 2024. We now know this. You can't just show up at somebody's house, give them a bunch of stuff, and hope that they love you. The women get to say nowadays. I don't know if they got to say in the '60s when they wrote some of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing I really really love in general with these stories is how Jeff and Tim, because even not just the Marvel stories, even their DC stories, they capture the time that it
Hmm.
originally occurred.
Yeah,
They don't try to modernize the story. They don't try to give it an ultimate spin. They embrace the fact that, yeah, these stories came out in the 60s,
yeah,
and this is what it looked like in the 60s. And I really really like it because it feels more of a period piece,
yeah.
rather than just a retelling. It really feels like you're experiencing somebody's flashback, and I really really like how that's presented.
And if you ever make sort of if you're a writer and you're trying to make a character in the '60s or whatever, they have to touch on the Fantastic Four, like that. Like putting that interaction here puts him directly on the MCU, on the Marvel Universe timeline. Sorry, blasphemy. On the Marvel Universe timeline, definitively.
Hey,
He
Marvel's first family.
Marvel's first family. Later at the office, Karen is seen to have a full-on fascination with Daredevil. Like she is daydreaming. She is not even looking at what's going on. She is daydreaming. Her and Matt discuss this and forget to pick up the phone, which pisses off Foggy, who's already annoyed with the two. Again, how do you feel about Foggy's attitude in this?
He's annoyed. I mean, right? He admitted defeat in the end of the last issue, right? Because now we're in the last issue of the series. He at the end he admits it, and even as he's admitting it, like no one's even mourning what he's lost.
Right.
He's the only one that's feeling it because the whole time he's leaving and throwing away the flowers, they're still upstairs flirting, and he's
Chilling.
pretending to
Yeah.
be like a sword fighter with her, and they're loving it, and
Yeah.
he's just my man's heart is shattered into pieces. So now he comes in the next day and they're continuing to have these conversations and he's trying to get work done. And he's like, can somebody answer the phone?
Yeah,
Can one of you two lovebirds answer the phone? So, I mean, I don't, who hasn't been in that situation where they had to admit, all right, the girl that I like doesn't want me.
right.
And
And
it's one
and
thing
and
to,
and goes at work, right? Like they work together. Like
right.
it's like
And
dealing with
so
your crush
now
at
they
school.
work
Like it's
together and
unavoidable.
oh, your boy is the one that she likes. So that's got to be in your face. That hurts. That hurts.
There's
So
no avoiding it.
Foggy's, it's just here
Yeah,
I'm
he's
gonna I'm
pissed.
gonna I'm gonna rip your heart out, and I'm gonna constantly just smush it around and play with it like it's clay. And
And of course, I gotta play devil's advocate in the sense, daredevil's advocate in the sense that like if if Foggy had gotten with Karen and they were doing this in the office, he'd be fine with it. He wouldn't say like, "Oh, this is too much for work" or anything. He's already taking her bowling, right? So he doesn't care too much about interpersonal relationships at work. But it's because this is literally in his face, and
right,
that can't be easy at all. Uh,
tough feeling.
and yeah, and then Matt's getting double flirted with, right? Because then she's talking about how great Daredevil is, so he's just sitting there, he's having the time of his life. Uh, Foggy gets more annoyed when he gets off the phone because he's found out that the judge has made Nelson and Murdoch the official court-appointed attorneys for the Purple Man, aka Mr. Kilgrave. And again, I'm like, this was written for me. Like I know this guy. He's obscure. He would have been obscure without that Jessica Jones show, in my opinion. They nail him and make him absolutely terrifying in that. So now whenever he's mentioned in regular Marvel comics, I'm like, it's the Purple Man. It's Kilgrave. He's a sick bastard. Um, so that was great. Foggy continues to give Matt grief, so he leaves to figure out what's going on. But when Karen decides to go with Matt, Foggy gets mad and tosses his phone in anger. He's like giving him shit. So Matt's like, "All right, then I'm gonna leave." And Karen's like, "Can I go with you?" Foggy's like, "Damn it,
What?
cannot win, cannot win." What do you think about this? The name dropping of Purple Man in this?
No, this is a great villain to leave on, right? Because this is a completely immoral character. The Purple Man is a horrible human being, as you can see in this issue.
Yeah.
So
I was like, oh
there,
my God, he was bad even in 2001. That's what the same thing I
yeah,
said. I was like,
no,
oh,
no,
because
no,
they
no,
play around with the Jessica Jones stuff around this time.
yeah,
What the things he did to her.
yeah, no. He's a horrible villain, and they truly capture that in how he's just walking around telling people, hey, kill that person, do this, you jump off that building, go slip into something more comfortable, which we would know
Yeah.
what that means. He's 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 sleazy. He makes the dude who killed his father
Slade
seem like a like Slade.
makes
Yeah,
Slade look like
Slade.
Mr. Rogers.
Exactly. Whereas you could
It's a
just
beautiful day.
feel the ooze off
Yeah.
this guy. Ugh, he's a gross, disgusting person who has no regard for other people. Other people are just tools for him. That's
Yeah.
it.
I did like that he had no redeeming qualities in this. I thought that was very, very fitting of that character. At the courthouse, Karen keeps asking about Daredevil, and now Matt's over it. Matt's like, no, like we're not talking about Daredevil no more. You keep asking these questions. I don't know the answers." So even he's over her little fangirl situation there, which I thought was pretty cool. They go to talk to Kilgrave, who uses his powers of persuasion to be let out of the courthouse entirely and takes Karen captive without moving a finger. This is what you were just talking about. This is a different fight than Daredevil's ever had to fight. He can't. While he will win by punching later on, he almost doesn't. He can't punch his way out of this situation. This is not like any other person he's ever fought. This person will turn innocent people against Daredevil, and those are people that Daredevil is not willing to fight to get the job done. Right? Like he will throw innocent body after innocent body right at Matt
Yep.
if that's the case. He cares not. So this completely changes the game. They leave, and Matt suits up and is in pursuit. Purple Man turns the police on Daredevil, and they fire at him, but he manages to dodge their onslaught. Kilgrave manages to escape to a fancy hotel and seems to be prepared to make Karen give him everything, literally making her disrobe, give him everything he
Gross.
wants before. Yeah, it's really, really gross. Before Daredevil shows up with room service. Did you ring? Did you rang? Like this
Yeah.
is you get your orders
Pow!
up. Orders up.
Got
He
this
comes
knuckle
in.
sandwich for you.
Yeah,
Where's my girl
unfortunately,
at?
Unfortunately, the room service is in the form of rights and lefts that leave the purple man black and blue. To distract our hero, Kilgrave makes Karen jump off the roof. So I was like, again, that's a scene from Jessica Jones, where she's
Yeah.
standing on the roof trying to see if she can make herself jump without his power, because she's so over the constant abuse of him. It's dark, real dark imagery. So when I saw her up there, I was like, none of this is what a scumbag.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
yeah, because he just wanted to screw her, and now that that's not going to happen, he's just going to kill her so he can get
That's it.
away.
I will find another one, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Exactly.
So he decides to choose to save her instead of apprehending Kilgrave. And as he whisks her away, she inquires why he chose yellow for his costume, and suggests that if he's a devil, he should be red, which makes a lot of sense. He gives it a
A
thought,
lot of sense.
and then she kind of invites herself on a date. She invites him, she invites herself. She just makes like a little play date for the two. You know, I don't know exactly how that works in these instances. I mean, she's a woman about town. She can make her own dinner plans. But yeah, she basically acts out a superhero right there in broad daylight, which is pretty cool. And he still manages to get Kilgrave, because Kilgrave just walks out the front door of the hotel. And he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
there's you," because they made it a choice, like Green Goblin, right? Choose one of us, like I'm gonna let the woman. I'm gonna go. You gotta choose. He's like, "No, I got both of you. I saved her, and then I just waited for you downstairs, and I
that's it.
got you." Pheromones. They were still talking about pheromones in this, right? That's primarily the method in which she's able to
It's
sort of.
I think it's pheromones as well as like a little bit of a line of sight kind of thing. And I think that's the
Okay.
reason why it doesn't affect he can't control Daredevil.
They also like just throw like a rug over him, and they're like, yeah, he's done. They're like, open and shut case, because they just
Yeah,
put
because I
something
think because
over him. So
I
I'm
think
thinking
he
this
has to see you or kind of like lock eyes with you to some
that makes
degree, and I
sense.
think I think that's why he can't control Daredevil. So that's why he also
Okay.
covers him to be like, all right, if you covered, then you can't look at people and
It's
take
like a
over the
bird
store.
cage when you want him to go to sleep. He just puts
That's right.
he just puts the blanket over him. He's like, don't worry, everyone be quiet. It's gonna be okay.
Shh, 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 shh. We put a mirror. We put a mirror in there. He's fine. He's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine. Their meet cute is interrupted by Foggy, and Matt takes the distraction as time to get out of there. Back at the office, Matt and Foggy bicker over whether Karen will ever come back, and Foggy surrenders in their duel for her love. I was trying to wrap my head around this scene. Is this the belief that they think that their job is going to bring harm to Karen, so they think that she might not come back? Is that the whole debate that they're having here? Because they seem unsure about whether or not she's going to walk back through the door.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, she's just been through a lot multiple times now, having because she works for these guys. Why would you want to
Yeah.
come back to work and deal with this? But she does, and not only does she, but now she's seemingly
She got a hot date.
she got a
She
hot
got a hot
date.
date.
So
Yeah.
and so Foggy and Matt have lost, and who have they lost to? Daredevil.
I thought that was well done. I thought that was well done, because just then, like you said, Karen arrives, showing that she's still willing to work for them even after the Purple Man fiasco, but tells them that she has to leave a bit early as she has a date with Daredevil tonight. With Daredevil as the man who won Karen's heart, Foggy and Matt called it a truce. I thought that was well done. Like, you two, and what's funny
That's
is
it.
it's a truce, but Matt still won.
Little do
It's
you
real easy
know.
to call a truce
Little do you
when you
know.
won.
That's
When
right.
you won, right?
That's
It's
it.
like,
Oh
yeah,
man,
no, you're
you
even,
lost. I
even.
lost.
Wink, even.
Wink.
Matt,
no,
Matt, Matt, did you just wink? No, no, I don't know what you're talking
no,
about.
no, no. I got something in my eye. Got something in my
Yeah.
eye.
Are you making a blind joke, Foggy? I don't like it.
It's messed
It's
up.
not
It's messed
cool.
up. Shouldn't do that.
Not
Shouldn't
cool.
do that. Your father taught you better.
Years later, Karen would find out Daredevil's identity. Their past would be intertwined until her unfortunate death. As a tribute to Karen and his father battling Jack, Matt buys the Fogwell gym, hoping he can make it into a place where people can make something of themselves, just like his father did. He ends his letter telling Karen that he misses her and that he will always love her. The end. It's a very poignant, very short, but very expressive, heartfelt series. I really, really dug the events of this story, and I really dug Matt. I guess I guess he has to be a little less religious to turn to Karen before God, right? In another story, this would have been a letter to Jesus or something, right? Like, or a
Well,
confessional, a confessional. In
maybe,
another story, he would have been
maybe,
talking to Father Flanagan or whatever that I can't remember.
maybe. I mean, as we all know it. Matt has had many loves in his life.
Yeah,
Karen in this book was the main one. Some would say it was the love of his life, but he's also, I mean, he's fallen in love with Black Widow, with
Electra.
uh, Elektra. Uh, who else has he? I
He
think
just was dating like a DA. I feel like not too long ago in the
yes,
Chip Zdarsky run.
in the Chip Zdarsky run, right? So I mean, and it's kind of that's his cross to bear almost, because
Yeah,
he loves women. He's had his fair share of women.
it's
So
the scent.
that's it.
Yeah, it's
That
the
that
same.
I
When
don't
you're hanging
I
out
don't blame him.
with Franklin Murdoch, I mean Franklin Nelson all day, sometimes
Yeah,
just a
right.
little bit of perfume is enough to set a man, make a man go
That's it.
wild.
Constantly around a nasty boxing gym, and you
Yeah,
suddenly smell something sweet, some lavender.
finally, I know that I was
Like,
in the
ooh,
military, bro. It's bonkers out there in these streets. But I
wow.
do love that this. If you don't know the events of what happens to Karen, you can still enjoy this story wholeheartedly, and you kind of just put two and two together with the universe that
Honestly, and
exists.
you don't need to know the tragic details. You just need to know that
She's no
she's
longer
passed
here.
away. She's no longer here. All the other stuff you really don't need to know. There's just fun tidbits that hint, like I said, that one comment that Grace makes as she's escaping about secrets,
Yeah,
the secrets that come out of what she has to go through. Uh, but you don't need to know any of that for the story. Is this story is really just him saying a final goodbye to her,
yeah,
really? Because what's crazy is, what comic books love to do is they love to resurrect characters. Karen Page is in line with Ben Parker, a character that
yeah,
just doesn't get resurrected. It's just like, hey, that character's dead. Goodbye.
yeah, yeah. And it's also, the trope of a superhero is to hold on to these grudges, right? Hold on to these unresolved, tragic things and never move forward. Keeping the hero in the B plot, never getting to the conclusion of it. He's always tortured by this stuff. Giving any kind of closure, any kind of conclusion is not something a lot of publishers are willing to do for certain heroes. And sometimes it takes a series like this to kind of get the closure that the hero needs. And then again, I still think it's a little salty that he's like, and you eventually found out my secret identity, and Foggy never loved it again. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? He just puts it out there like Foggy never found love. I'm like, what?
Just had to throw that in there. But I mean,
Yeah,
Foggy never does. I mean, as far as I know, I've never known Foggy to settle down. I don't even
that's
think of
jacked up,
like
man. Give
like
my
what
man
love
Foggy
interest what
something.
love interest has he had? I couldn't tell you.
Someone needs to be the hero, the real hero, and give my man Foggy some play, man. Put my man Foggy in a She-Hulk book or something. Let's see what my
Yeah,
man can
right.
do. Turn avocados at law. They both green. You know what I'm saying? They can get it done. They can get it done. But I thought this was a quaint little story to cover with Daredevil. It kind of gives you everything that you'd want. Like I said, I would have loved a little bit more of the Catholic stuff in here, and I always am down for Stick, but I always, I understand that not everyone digs that character or how to best portray him. But yeah, April of 1964 is when Daredevil 1 was published. It is April of 2024, so it is the 60th anniversary of The Man Without Fear. And what a better way to celebrate him than to cover this seminal work here. We've now covered Born Again and this. I think the next thing would have to be Guardian Devil.
Which would be the
Smith and
the Kevin
Casada.
Smith the Kevin Smith story, yes.
Yeah, the
Where
Smith and
where
Casada.
Karen is killed.
Yeah, yeah. So that I think starts to complete some of the seminal works of this character. It kind of sucks that his best stuff is so sparse here and there, but I can
Well,
see a lot of people hitting a
I
wall.
felt like I feel like starting with this and Guardian Devil, this is where Daredevil just went on a run of great runs.
Yeah,
Because it was this Guardian Devil by Kevin Smith, the Bendis run, which went for a long time, which led
Brubaker?
directly into Brubaker, followed by um another crime-esque person at the time. Oh, what was his name? He
Oh,
was like a
another
hot.
crime. Oh, Ennis?
No, not Ennis. He was like one of those
Mm,
hot writers for a time.
I'm looking now. So we're talking about we had Brubaker, Michael Lark,
Mike, right,
Brubaker. Andy Diggle.
okay. Andy Diggle, yes, the Diggle run was okay. That kept it around, and then I think it. Then I felt like it went to the Mark Waid run, which was
Yep.
great, but
Mm-hmm.
it was some people thought it was like a little silly, but
Yeah.
it was critically acclaimed. And then I think after that was the
You're
Soul
not
run,
lying, Charles Soule. Yep.
Charles Soule, and then that led into the Zdarsky run. I think there may have been somebody in between too,
Yeah. I'm
and
seeing.
those.
I think it goes. Yeah. Soul released his final Daredevil story, Death of Daredevil, during the October-November 2018 release in a four-part bi-monthly series. Afterwards, the series went on hiatus for 2 months. And in February of 2019, Chip Zdarsky wrote a brand new volume.
There you go. So all of those have been great. Like so pretty much Daredevil has had a solid run in the
Took him
last
40 years.
20 years, right? For 40 years, yeah,
Yeah.
he was a joke character. It was just like, oh, what do we do with this blind guy? He kept coming up with these silly scenarios for him to
He was a
do.
cameo character. Popped up in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk. He popped up in Spider-Man the Animated Series. He never saves the day. He just shows up and it's like, hey,
Okay.
I'm a blind lawyer.
Right. Right. I mean,
Do
even
you
there's
think it's the movies? Do you think the movies are what propelled the newfound popularity, thus new writers trying to elevate? Just the
because
timing of good writers and good material.
yeah, yeah, and people recognizing, hey, like this guy's got a lot of depth to him that people haven't touched. I mean, well, the Frank Miller run, the Frank Miller run really gave us that taste, and then after Frank, he was kind of like just left out there to wade. It was kind of like, all right, they told the story to tell with this character, and then I forget who wrote the fall from grace stuff. Do you know? I forget who wrote
Fall
that.
from Grace with Daredevil.
Yes.
I am not sure. Interesting. I mean, I'm a fan of the character as I know him now. I think they did a tremendous um, job of him on the television show. Obviously, so 1993's Fall from Grace. D.G. Chichester
Yeah. Who? No
and
disrespect,
Scott
but
McDonald.
no disrespect. I'm sorry, but like who? You know what I'm saying? So
His
don't get me
credits
wrong.
include Daredevil and,
I
and Nick
I
Fury,
I
Agents of
feel
Shield.
right. I feel bad because we're talking about how it took 40 years, but that Frank Miller run is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that so much good stuff happened there, but then he just like fell off. They they had to do these extreme stories where like they dragged Karen Page through the freaking mud. They gave
Yeah.
Daredevil that awful armor costume, if you remember
Oh, the
that.
armor, the knee
Yeah, it was
pads and stuff. I'm like, what's going
knee
on
pads,
here?
shoulder pads. It's just like, yeah, Daredevil's a football player now.
And they had to
And
accentuate the chrome in it. Like they always have
yes,
to glimmer and gleam. I'm like, there's a
yes,
lot, man.
exactly.
There's a lot.
Exactly. But then in the late 90s, early 2000s, they realized, okay, you know what? Let's embrace more of that dark stuff and really get in that muck. And we've had 20 solid years now of good Daredevil stories, you
Yeah.
know. So it's peak. It's he's writing that peaks those peak stories. These are good stories. So Daredevil is definitely somebody that if you were to start from here and read all the way to the present, you're gonna
You
have a
would
good
think he was
time.
always A-list. You would think he was always A tier. I even think of like this is so comics is so beautiful and silly at the same time. I quite literally just got goosebumps thinking of one of my favorite panels in Civil War where he gives the coins to Tony. He gets arrested and he gives the coins to Tony. He says something like, "You're gonna need these wherever you're going or whatever, like to
Right.
pay for your sins or whatever." And I was
That's
like,
it.
"Damn, Daredevil, shit, you don't give a damn." Love
That's it.
it.
He's cold. He's no, he is definitely cold. He's cold blooded. He knows what he wants. He knows what he wants to do. Definitely. Matt
So he's
Murdock is
Daredevil. He's Matt
he-
Murdock. He's a rebel. Oh, I killed it.
but
I died when he said he's gonna paint the town red. That's the name of the song. And I was like, oh, it always, man, it always comes full circle. So good. Do you think they're gonna kill Deborah Ann Woll?
kill who?
Deborah Ann Woll, the actress who plays Karen Page in Daredevil Born Again.
Mm,
They played a little bit in season 3 with her shady past. I think she accidentally killed her brother or something, car crash, drug
something like
related,
that. Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Something like that.
Uh, she never broke bad, but she had a thing in her past, and that was
Right.
sort of revealed. So they kind of pulled away from it, and then at one point, I want to say he gets stabbed by Bullseye, and so they have her holding him in front of the stained glass,
Yes.
uh, you know,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
panel for the homage of when she actually
Mhm.
dies. So they've
Yeah.
teased what happens to her without actually giving it to her. What's your over under? Do you think they have the balls to kill Karen Page for the sake
I
of
think they
story,
do.
or should they?
I think they do. I think
Yeah,
that's one of the things in the story that's going to make the story that level of darkness, and show because I think I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the things that caused all this delay with the writing because maybe they didn't
yeah.
maybe right that because this was before all the schedule changes and all the rewrites on things. I wouldn't be surprised if they were trying to lighten it up, you
Yeah.
know, and now that they see, okay, people still want that grim, dark. That's what the series was famous for. Let's fix it all up. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the thing that they changed in the series is going to be killing her.
It was alluded for a while that they, or rumored at the very least, that they killed Foggy. That Foggy was the person that they killed in the series, and then they went back on everything. They went back on all of it. I don't know if you've seen. They went so far back that they recast Mrs. Fisk, Vanessa Fisk.
Yes,
Um,
yes, they did. I saw
so
that, which I'm happy about because that actress. I mean, she plays off of Vincent D'Onofrio so beautifully.
she makes
You
him a
know,
kid. She turns
yeah.
him into a child. She's always the adult in the room. She's not the
Hmm.
damsel in distress. She doesn't need to be doted on. She walks into the room and she says, Wilson, what are we going to do about this?
Right,
Oh,
right.
anything, Vanessa. Just what do you want? I've got Pop
Yeah.
Tarts in the cabinet, and
Yes.
I can make you eggs. I make the perfect omelet. It's like,
Yeah,
relax, relax, bro.
it's crazy because the whole series when they first meet up, I'm like, okay, how is he gonna get her to fold into what it is he does? And when she figures it out, she's just like, yeah, I'm with it.
It's she's so it's so natural. All I could assume is that it's just like a love of luxury as being a art gallery person. She's like whatever it takes,
Mhm. That's
whatever it
it.
takes. I've
You
seen
know,
people walk in here and just drop people's rent on a canvas with some colors on it. You understand? There's nothing right and wrong with this world. People are gonna do whatever they takes to get to the top, and I guess I'm gonna ride this train all the way to the top. So I'm super glad that she's back. Um, and yeah, man, we're hitting all the highs. We've got Bullseye, got Kingpin, got the Owl, got the
ev-
Hand, got Punisher,
ev-
got Elektra.
yeah, everything is there for it to be set up so that Karen is gonna meet her demise,
Karen
and they
gets
better not.
Karen gets
Wait,
got.
is Elodie Young? Elodie Young is back.
That's the only one not confirmed yet.
Okay, okay, okay.
That's the
But
only one not confirmed yet.
even if they were to bring her back, they're not going to just kill her again. That's like, okay,
No,
we've done
no,
this
no, no,
before.
no. And now you
They
have
attempt.
two. I think you keep her on the wraps. They've kind of blown up this idea that Punisher's in it. I thought they would try to keep that more of a secret, but they kind of just let people know. I would keep Elodie Young on the wraps. She was seemingly dead last time we saw her. We never saw her since the explosion at Midland Circle, the same one that was supposed to kill Daredevil, but pushed him out, like the sewers pushed him out the side
Damn,
before.
damn dinosaur bones.
Yeah, the fucking dinosaur bones, bro. Damn you, Danny Rand. But anyway,
But something
uh,
something I really want to highlight here, though, is guys, is
sure.
we've talked a lot about Tim Sale, but also Jeff Loeb. This
Yes.
team, this creative team has it, during this time was pumping out hit after hit after hit. Here's some of the stuff that I know we've covered here on the channel before, but they've done Long Halloween, Batman, right? Batman, Long Halloween, Batman, Dark Victory, Batman, what was it, Haunted Night. They did
Yeah.
all the colors, Daredevil yellow, Spider-Man blue, Hulk gray, Captain America white. Jeff Loeb himself is also had a magnificent run on cable.
Yeah.
Tim, they also Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale did Superman for all seasons, or Man
Yes.
for all seasons, something like that. They did that together. These two have created so much essential reading that it's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
you can't, like, the run that they had together was just great. And every book I just said, I highly recommend. Highly,
Yeah.
highly,
They
highly
they got a
recommend.
Wolverine and Gambit book. They do
Yes.
several. They do a series called Solo. Maybe it might have just been Tim Sale, but we also have a Catwoman book where she goes to Rome, 2004. Um, Superman, like you just saw, my Superman Confidential was a thing for a bit. Yeah, it's called Catwoman When in Rome, like you were just saying. Superman for All Seasons, Batman Dark
Mhm.
Victory. Um, Great stuff. And again, so artwork that's so expressive. These
So
two are
expressive. And
these, they're attacking these two.
yeah, and it's really tragic that just a few years ago we lost Tim Sale. So guys, you're not going to see anything new from this person, and but his stuff is still out there. You can find this on shelves. This is stuff that's constantly being reprinted. It's constantly being uh told in new ways because they've animated this stuff. Highly recommend this stuff. Show it the love it deserves. Follow this creative team. You won't regret it. These are all great stories.
Yeah, when done well, um, the passion remains on the page.
Mhm.
And one of the things about Tim Sale is that his legacy will continue way long after he's gone because the passion remains on the page. It makes these books timeless. You can pick them up and you can give them to other people. That's my language of love. And everything you felt, they will feel because it's all on the page. They bled in this book. Blood, sweat, and tears in this book. And that's how we get such a great book. And that's what we try to do here as part of the Major Issues podcast is cover great books, the latest and greatest to come to comic books and comic book media. And we have all that stuff over at comicbookclick.com, the one stop for everything comic book click. But now we got a roommate. Dirt Sheet Radio was over there hanging out at Comic Book Click. We've been dealing with a fortuitous partnership with Dirt Sheet Radio for the last couple of weeks. We've seen our numbers grow as both of our audiences kind of meet each other, and they get down and dirty and have more audience babies. That's how that works, right? So but yeah, check out comicbookclick.com. It's the one-stop shop for everything we do and everything that Dirt Sheet Radio does, including their podcast, our podcast, articles, pop culture news, professional wrestling news, comic book news. It's all there and it's all free of charge. So go ahead and check that out. And don't forget the Major Issues podcast is on there. Every single episode. That's over 300 and over 300 episodes of content. It's over 600 hours of content. My goal is eventually to have record so much audio that we can put it in an AI robot and it could just do the episodes for me. And it'll be like Dwayne Johnson, Bad, Pa, Kent, Tornado, do stuff like that. So hopefully we get there. We can only get there by continuing to record these episodes free of charge each and every week for you guys. The Major Issues podcast comes out on Thursdays. But even though the Major Issues podcast comes out each and every week, we also have a video series called Major Previews, where we go through the solicitations of the month and try to figure out what's going to be the next hot issue that you need to put in your hands. What stories are out there taking the world by storm? If you're listening to this, episode 4 of Major Previews is already out. So check out which things you got to nab in April before episode 5 comes out, detailing all the latest and greatest things to come as far as the May solicitations are concerned. If you guys want to help support us, like I said, go to comicbookclick.com. You can go to our merch shop at TeePublic, where designs, or every shirt is designed by me and we get a kickback. Or you can hit that support Comic Book Click button, which will take you to our Patreon, patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse, where for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, you can help us keep our lights on here as we try to afford the hardware and the software that we need to keep producing content for you guys free of charge. We're working really hard behind the scenes over here with this new revamp of Comic Book Click because in quite a few days, 420, who knows why I picked the day, it is Comic Book Click's 8th birthday. So Comic Book Click turns 8 in in a couple of days now from when you'll be hearing this. And It's a big birthday for us. We're doing some real big changes behind the scenes. Like you said, partner up with DirtSheet Radio. The numbers are going up. We got some really, really cool stuff coming down the pike. So get on the bandwagon before it gets full. I've said it multiple times. Major issues, Comic Book Clique, DirtSheet Radio. We are the Babe Ruth rookie card. You grab us up now or not, you're gonna have buyer's remorse later when everybody's talking about us. And you could have gotten on the ground floor. You could have been sitting next to me on the bandwagon, but it's getting full, man. Now you're gonna start yelling from the back, and I can't hear you. Took you too long. So get on the bandwagon. Follow us wherever we are. Facebook.com/ComicBookClique. Instagram @ComicBookClique. And you can use that hashtag ComicBookClique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. We're at Major Issue CBC on Twitter and also at Major Issue CBC on Twitch whenever I get on Twitch. But yeah, you can check us out over there. We're always hanging around. And yeah, follow us all over social media. Our numbers are going up across the board. Tell a friend to tell a friend. If you don't got any money, just rate and review us on iTunes. And I don't mean to say it like that if you don't got any money. If you don't have any money to give to us, rate and review us on iTunes. It's the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what you like and what you don't. Because I've been to the future where we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media. But I can't tell you how we do it because it'll mess up the timeline. And next thing you know, Dwayne Johnson's playing Karen Page. And the final boss is not going to be one to be taken lightly in Hell's Kitchen. No one wants to see that happen. So like I said, like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend, rate us, buy stuff from us. Just love us because we love you, and be back next week for a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast. But my name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
And I am Alex Garcia, aka The Cog.
And this has been our Daredevil Yellow recap and review. And remember, whether you're a lawyer, a crook, a boxer, or a simp, like Foggy Nelson, remember that we are the Clique. And always remember, hey, you can also be a man without fear, but also remember that you, yes, you are worthy.